We got to get a better understanding, Bessma, I think, of what's going on in domestic Israeli politics right now, starting with the prime minister recently dissolving the war cabinet that was tasked with prosecuting this war. Give us some understanding of why that happened.
Well, I mean, I think for those who have been following Israeli politics and the inside drama, there's been a lot of disagreement within the cabinet, certainly. But I think what we need to take away from this, and what I think I'd like to impart, is that this is a very, very radicalized cabinet. The far right in Israel has gotten stronger and stronger, and they are increasingly the loudest voices. And I would even say, I mean, if we just look at public opinion polling within the country, we've seen an absolute turn to the right. I mean, there's almost sad to say no more peaceniks left. It's really hard to find the so-called left in existence anymore. And what we're seeing, I think, in terms of this cabinet now, and just yesterday, it was really quite startling to see Smotrich talk about, we need to wipe out Gaza and to completely remove the entire population through immigration. I mean, there is no shortage of statements of ethnic cleansing being said today about Gaza. And I think that really stands out. And that's, of course, going to be the basis of what might be, a cause or the accusation of genocide against the Israelis because of all of these statements that are being made by the far right. I mean, the challenge, of course, throughout history in Israeli politics is that often those far right parties, even though they're extremely small and they're not the majority, but they just have a way through basically having to prop up these governments that can't win a majority. Basically, they become the swing makers. And this is what we see today in Israel. And I think it's really time for us to open our eyes, and that this is a very different Israel today. What's coming out of that government is extremely troubling and very, very much to the far right.
Janice, I just want you to pick up on that quickly, in as much as I don't know if people understand. Try and imagine if Justin Trudeau had a cabinet and there were 10 different parties represented in that cabinet, right? That's what's going on in Israel right now. You haven't got one party governing. You've got one prime minister trying to keep 10 different parties happy.
Well, there is a Likud party, which is a traditional right party, center-right party. But to the right of the Likud party are two particular parties. One, which is a religious party, and the other, which is a far-right nationalist party. Now, here's the I think, ominous signs that the reason a war cabinet was created, and Benny Gantz, who is I would say, center, if that exists.
Opposition leader.
Opposition leader. The leader of the largest opposition party went in, was in fact to shut out those two far right-wing parties from making decisions during the war. So whatever they said, it didn't matter. They didn't have their fingers on the levers. He walked away from that cabinet because the political dynamics of staying in the absence of what he thinks rightly is a complete lack of strategy, are just too damaging. And so that now reestablishes the existing security cabinet in which those two right-wing parties are present at the table in terms of decisions. I think from that perspective, the moment's passed for the Biden deal. I truly think it's dead cat diplomacy.
I'm going to get Hussein to comment first on this clip that was posted on X. Prime Minister Netanyahu with some strong words for his closest ally, the United States. Sheldon, roll it if you would.
When Secretary Blinken was recently here in Israel, we had a candid conversation. I said I deeply appreciated the support the U.S. has given Israel from the beginning of the war. But I also said something else. I said it's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies. Secretary Blinken assured me that the administration is working day and night to remove these bottlenecks. I certainly hope that's the case. It should be the case. During World War II, Churchill told the United States, "Give us the tools, we'll do the job." And I say, give us the tools and we'll finish the job a lot faster.
Okay, Hussein, let me get your take on how the prime minister is supposed to negotiate a situation where, on the one hand, he's trying to make nice with the United States, and on the other hand, as our other two guests have suggested, he's got some of the most right-wing figures in Israeli history that he has to keep inside the tent as well. How do you do both those things?
It's very hard, and you sort of need be the kind of political magician that Netanyahu has shown himself to be in the past. And I'll give you an example of how he's managing it. There was a recent announcement by the Israeli military that there would be daytime pauses in military attacks in Rafah. And Netanyahu said, I didn't know anything about that. I was out of the loop. Now, on the one hand, he gets to say to the United States, look, I'm trying to address the humanitarian issue, doing pauses. On the other hand, he says to other Israelis and to his cabinet colleagues, I had nothing to do with this. This is the military. I'll talk to them. Don't worry about it. So he has this way of kind of playing both sides against the middle. He's very good at it. And there is a fundamental contradiction between where Israel is going in terms of its self-image. How do Israelis imagine their society? What do they think of when they imagine the word Israel? And it really is starting in the big majority now to normatively include most of the West Bank, or all of it, on the one hand, and then American interests on the other hand. American interests don't include annexation and probable expulsion of Palestinians from the West Bank. And since Israel is on a fast train in that direction, and you can see the contradiction showing up in the future of the war in Gaza, where Biden is saying it's time for the war to end, and Netanyahu is saying, in effect, this is no time for this war to end. And as a matter of fact, I have no idea when it might end. You can see the contradiction growing into very large proportions.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.